After the enemy caps D, they're going to head for the resupply facility. And there's a position over here, look at where it is on the minimap, and there's other positions, it's not the only one, where you've got a line on that repair facility. You can knock some of the trees down so you don't get spotted. It's obvious that I was spotted because there is a tank, it looks like a T-26E5, which is in front of me and within spotting range. I do use the camo net. The camo net definitely works at long range when sniping, but not always. It's not a sure thing. So you do have sniping coverage. There's other positions here. You don't have a lot of time to get into position, and you usually can't stay here for long. Depends on how fast the enemy team is moving. But you might want to try this position. It's when the enemy caps D, this is one of the positions that I rush to. The other position that I would rush to is where I'm pointing to on the minimap between D and E on that elevated area. This is a very interesting position that I found. Okay, so I started the game with the Waffenträger. It's a lightly armored tank. And what I noticed is that there's a tree you can knock down. This is cap B. Here's where the cap is, right here where this B is. There's some houses over here. There's a rock over here. You have to go through this area and past these houses to reset cap B. The enemy tanks have to cross over in front of you, which is where all these red dots are on the enemy team, or they got to go all the way around, which is on the other side of the B logo. I'm pointing to it right now on the minimap. The rest of it is a ridge that they cannot climb into cap B. So half the tanks, they're gonna cross over this area. You knock the tree down. This is another angle of what it looks like. And look at what the view is. You can hit these tanks. If you know this position, I talk about it in my other videos, there's some sort of a structure over here, and you can go behind it. There's room for one tank. You got to drive carefully to get behind it to get to cap B. And you can hit those tanks, and you can hit them on the other side of the structure out in the open over here. So that's a good sniping position you're going to want to know. After the enemy has conquered cap E, they're going to head into the objectives. The smart ones are going to go for objective 2. Look at the minimap. They're going to go to the repair facility, and then they're going to go through these rail lines, which is basically right in front of you, and they're going to head for objective 2 because it's the easiest objective in the game to go after. They're either going to go on the other side of this building through these rail lines or on the inside slope over here. There is a repair facility. You cannot snipe the repair facility from here. You have to go up to where the train is up on the slope. However, you can shoot between the rails, and you can hit tanks like that Centurion 51 as he's heading towards the bridge. The bridge is over here. They're basically going to keep crossing over. You can sit here for a long time. I haven't tested this position to find the exact perfect position, but they're just going to keep crossing over, and you can just keep sniping at them. As long as they don't head your way, this is a good sniping position. This is the assaulting team on Cap A. There's going to be games where you are on Cap A. Perhaps you are on the ridge on the east side, and you're going to come down, and you'll notice that cap B is wide open. You can't, you don't really have access to anything, but you can help your team out. You can hit the rear of tanks if you come out to this position. You notice that the Batchat 12T is also doing the same thing. So you've got clear shots. The only problem is they're really at the edge of your shooting range. So those tanks that are way out there, they'll have to be spotted. You're probably not going to be able to spot them, or you're going to have to take up another position. But it's really safe to go out here a little bit, take some shots at them in the rear, and then come back when you got to reload. This is a sniping position where you can play, for example, on Cap C, or you could do this from Cap B, and you can snipe into Cap B to defend it. So look at where I am on the minimap. You notice that I'm on the other side of the river, and I'm near the red line. You do have to be careful because enemy tanks can show up over here, and if you get spotted, you're going to be really vulnerable, and they're going to be able to really take you out. You're not going to be able to hide. But from here, you see that Cap B over there? This is what it looks like. You can hit tanks on Cap B. And look at where it is. It's beyond the spotting range. So if there's enemy tanks on Cap B, they're not going to spot you. Look at the spotting circle, and you'll see that it is possible to be spotted here. Keep in mind that there is a tree over here you can hide behind. It is possible to snipe into Cap B without being spotted, but it's very, very risky. Like I said, if a tank comes around into this position, or if a tank comes over here, you can get spotted, you can get hit really hard. It's very difficult to run away. And if the enemy caps C, it's really difficult and nearly impossible to get out of here. So you got to be really careful. So here's another view from another position. You can see that I moved a little bit further north, and you can see that I can hit this enemy tank. My allies got cleared out on this side of the map, but I'm still able to shoot at him. I don't know if he spotted me or not. This is a sniping position that you can use on Frontline for Cap A. Look at the minimap and see where I am. You'll notice that I'm right next to the repair and resupply facility. There is a small area that has lots of trees. It's a little tiny hill that you can sit in, knock some trees down for cover, and you can sit here and notice that you can snipe at a point over here where enemy tanks like to park. They like to park right over here next to this rock with their gun pointed through the cap so they can shoot at anybody who tries to rush the cap. So you can also sit there and you can sit in this position and snipe back at them. This is a good position if you've got a high penetrating gun, or if you're using HE rounds and you got weak armor or a slow tank and you don't want to get spotted and you want to be able to snipe. This is a sniping position for Cap B, but it's for the resupply area. So my theory is that a lot of the enemy tanks are going to go to the resupply area, which is right here. They're going to have less hit points, and some of them might be one-shots. And what you can do is you can come to this position. Look at where I am on the minimap. You might not want to be in this exact position. I haven't really learned a lot about this position. And you have shots on that resupply area and tanks approaching the resupply area, and it's within your spotting range. However, there's going to be obstacles in the way. There's buildings in the way, and you can see that there is a tank that did take a shot at me, this T-44. So this is one of the positions that you can use. This is a sniping position when the enemy caps B and they start advancing north. A lot of tanks are going to cross through this gap, and you can sit over here behind these bushes. Look at where I am on the mini-map, and you can fire at the tanks as they cross through that gap. You're not going to get a lot of targets going through here because of your reload time. A lot of them might go through before you're able to get a shot in, and I'm really not sure if this is a position that's a high-risk position because the enemy can easily come right up here and get close to you. And you can run away, but you do have to be careful playing this position. But if you do happen to be here, you want to be aware of it because you can get those shots. And the enemy tanks, they're just going to keep on driving by. They're not going to really come after you. Some of them are going to stop, maybe fire back and reverse, which means, of course, you get to shoot at them again. It's not the strongest position, but it's something that you want to be aware of. This is a sniping position for the attacking team for Cap D. It's going to allow you to defend the cap, and this is good if you have a slow tank. This happens to be a Rheinmetall Borsig. It has a good gun on it. It's a slow tank, and it's weakly armored, so I want to stay away from the enemy. And look at where I am on the mini-map. You can see that I have coverage not only of the cap, but I just killed another Rheinmetall Borsig, which is right here, this black triangle, as he was coming through the entranceway that you're very familiar with to enter Cap D. Here's another view, zoomed out a little bit, and you can see that I've got pretty good coverage. I can cover the access from the east side and the west side. You can see here there is another tank that is going through that opening, and I have clear shots on him. I do like 750 damage per shot, so I can really hurt him. Here's another shot which shows an IS-3 that's also coming through that opening. And you'll notice that in some of the cases, there's a lot of trees between me and him. They're outside of my spotting range, but you'll notice that in this case, I moved to where the trees were. This is what it looks like, and we've got some trees in front of us, and we've got some solid cover. And if you look at the mini-map, you can actually take up a lot of positions on this ridge. This might be the better position to take up. This is Cap C. When the enemy wins Cap C, they're going to go to the repair facility. The repair facility is actually right over here, and a lot of tanks are going to cross over to get to this area. And what you can do, the territory line is at the front of these trains. So you have to evacuate past this area right here at the front of the train. You can get behind these train cars and get a hull down position and shoot at tanks as they cross over. And if you get spotted or you got to reload, just dump over the side over here, and then it's easy to get back up. If you go to the front of the train cars and you dump over the side, you got to come all the way back here, get back up, go back to the front. You do have to be careful playing in this position, because the enemy, if you're not spotted, they're just going to roll right over here, and they're going to spot you, and you're going to be out in the open. So you got to be careful. It happens all the time. They're not cautious. They assume that they can just roll over here without being spotted, and then they end up spotting you. So be careful when you play this position. This is a sniping position for Cap B. This is when you're defending. And there's some solid cover over here and over here. There's some bushes over here. The enemy tanks are going to go through this little gap over here, and perhaps they might get onto Cap B, and they might show up over here in the distance, and you can hit them. However, they know about the gaps, and they know that they can hide behind the houses. There might be a rock over here. Plus, you can monitor what's going on in this direction. So I'm going to show you an example of what it looks like. You can see that there's rocks over here in houses. Look at where those tanks are on the mini-map. They're basically in this position right over here. This is them attempting to assault Cap B. They can hit tanks on Cap B over here, but you can also hide from them if you're on Cap B. So, like I said, you don't have the best shots. If you look at the mini-map where I'm pointing on with the mouse, there's other positions where you can get more clear shots for this approach over here. But this is a pretty good one, especially if you have a lightly armored tank. This is a difficult position to play, but I'm going to talk about it. I always want to come up with a unique position where I can get some sort of an advantage that the enemy isn't aware of. From here, you can snipe at tanks that are up on this ridge on the east side and hit them on the side. You got a rock to hide behind. This is the view on the west side. The problem with being in this position is that you can be hit from enemy tanks that are on the upper ridge over here. And it's happened to me before. I have some games where I get hit a lot and some games where I don't. And it's very easy for them to get away. You have to spend too much time focused on them. But if there's nobody up there, this is a position you can play. You'll notice that you can also hit tanks that show up in the distance area. Unfortunately, I didn't grab a screenshot before he became unspotted, but you do have shots on that sniping position, and this is what it looks like when someone's trying to cap. Because of the way Cap C is situated, they really got to make themselves vulnerable, and even though he's trying to hide behind this, perhaps there's a rock over here and this structure over here, you still get a lot of shots on Cap C when they're trying to cap. This is the defending team on Cap A, and it's a position that I like to use. What I do is I knock this tree down, and then I sit over here, and then I snipe at the tanks that are on the cap. And when I'm reloading, I reverse, and then when I want to snipe at the cap again, I come back over here. And once this tree is knocked down, it doesn't mean you're not going to get spotted, but it's going to give you more time to get a jump on the enemy. Here's another view with another tank. This is a Rheinmetall Borisig. And you'll notice once again I have the tree knocked down. This is for Cap A on the defending team. And there's nobody on the cap, but it would allow me to get a first shot in without them spotting me immediately. This is Cap A. This is for the defending team. There's a position, look where I am on the mini-map, and it's an elevated hill. And notice that you got a clear view of the beach over here. And I don't know exactly how much coverage you have where you can actually fire your gun, because you know you don't have a lot of opportunities to play in this position, but this is a good place where you can just sit and watch what's going on. And the repair facility is right over here. It's pretty close. I don't know if this is the best position to play in. If you can cross over this line and go over here and shoot, then absolutely it's a wonderful position. But I know from playing the game that if you cross this line, you're going to get bombarded so fast that if you have like the number of hit points I have, you're just going to get pummeled. So it's a very high risk to cross over this line. If I tried to cross over and make it to here with a fast tank and get back out, I probably would not make it. That's how quickly you get bombarded if you cross over this line. But you do have a pretty good view. This shows a sniping position. There's really not anything that special about it, but what you can see is that there's a defender there off in the distance, and he's sitting on the cap. The way the game draws the cap on the minimap is not complete, so it looks like the defender's off the cap. Maybe he is off the cap. I'm not even sure. Yeah, he must be off the cap because it doesn't say that he's capping at the moment. But you can see, look at where I am on the minimap. The more south you go, the harder it is to hit these tanks. But if you stay a little bit more to the north, you can hit them. So what's going to happen is if you are up on this ridge and you see that the enemy is capping, you've got a choice. You either advance further or you fall back, and you want to make sure that you reset that cap if you have to. This is going to be one of the weird sniping positions. You look at cap D, you can see it through here, and look at where I am on the mini-map. There's lots of positions that you can take up. You could park over here, you could park over here, you could get closer, you could get closer. You can see cap D, you can cover a little bit of the approaches. I haven't yet decided if this position really works, but it's something that I've tried a little bit, and I was fortunate that when I was here, there were targets for me to shoot at. But I wouldn't say it's a magic position. I don't think it's a strong position, but something you might want to consider trying. This is Cap A in the Frontline game mode on the map Epic Normandy. I'm going to talk a little bit about some interesting things that you can do. There's one really unique strategy. This is for the defending team. If you have engineering, you're going to come in from this direction and hide behind this rock and just sit here. And if the enemy doesn't spot you, you can block the capture. And if they don't spot you, they may not know that you're there, and they may not even realize that capture is blocked. There's a lot of people that don't know how to play the game. So you can sit here for a long time and block capture just by having a small tank, but you really got to get there sneaky, perhaps at the start of the game. What I usually do is I take a tank like an ELC even 90. You do have to have the engineering combat reserve again in order to block capture. I usually sit over here with the ELC even 90. I don't have Sixth Sense, so I really don't know if I get spotted. It looks like there's a tree over here that you might be able to knock down into the cap, which will give you some cover. This is Cap B. I usually sit over here because the area is lower than the rest of the terrain. It's not a hull down position, but it's going to give you the best hull down that you could possibly be. Obviously, you can hide behind the house. There's a position over here that you can sit in, and the reason why this is good is because they have to come around in order to get you, and over here they can't snipe at you either. They really have to come around in order to get you. The only way they can snipe at you is if they're all the way out over here against the red line. They can definitely shoot across and get you, but most players are afraid to go to that position, so you don't have to worry about it as much. This is Cap C, and one of the things that's interesting about Cap C, this is the most difficult cap to capture for the attacking team. One of the things that's interesting is that if you want to help your team, most people park over here next to this rock just outside the cap to wait for an opportunity to get onto the cap, or they'll line up over here, but you don't have to. You can go up to this upper level and you can snipe at enemy tanks, get some good action. If you're back over here, you might not have as much good action in the game. It's easy to get up here, and it's difficult for the enemy to get up to this upper area. They used to have, if you look at the mini-map, they used to have a ramp to get up to this upper area, but it was taken away from them in the last revision of the game, which I believe was 1.4. So now it's for the attacking team, it's harder for the defending team to get here. And when it's time to cap, all you got to do is roll down the side of the cliff and you roll right onto the cap. So if you're cautious about capping, but you still want to help, you can go up here and do some sniping. This is cap D. What I usually do when I'm capping is I knock this tree down into the cap, and then I sit right there over the slope inside the tree. It's not the best position. However, it's the last place anyone will ever look for you. They always expect you to be sitting right here, or maybe here, or behind these structures. Over here, you're far less likely to get spotted, and because of the slope of the land, they will come looking for you. They'll get really close to you trying to find you, especially if you have a small tank like an ELC even 90. But other than that, I think a strong position is to be behind these hard structures. You really have to have good situational awareness and make sure that your team controls this side of the map so they can't snipe at you. Otherwise, I would take up this position. This is cap E. And I'm going to point out some interesting things about it. First of all, you'll notice that there's a wall over here, and you can sit on the other side of the wall. In fact, 2 or 3 tanks might be able to sit here. I often go here because you're not going to get spotted, and tanks are not going to expect you to be here. They all think you're going to hide over here, so if you're not spotted, they're going to drop artillery over here. Try not to knock any of this stuff down. It slows you down when you're driving, but it's going to protect you, especially if the enemy is firing high explosive rounds, which is very common if there's derp guns on the enemy team. Some people like to hide over here. This building, you can actually go to the other side of this building, and there's a little area where you can hide. Let's see. No, it's not over here. There's a little area where you can hide on the other side of this building, and you can sit on the cap, which I've shown in other videos. The reason why I took this screenshot is just to show you how many tanks were on the cap. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and me being the 6th, I just thought it was interesting that we were all converging on that cap at the same time. This is a position where you can sit on the cap for either one of 2 purposes. You can either sit here because you want to capture the base, or you can sit here because you want to block the capture. Basically, this is cap E. You know where these mounds are, and you know that there's a building. Everybody likes to hide behind this building. And because I'm capping, they're dropping artillery strikes. What you're seeing is an artillery strike. But what I did was I went on the other side of the building. And there's a wall over here, so they're not really going to spot you. And you just sit over here. You're well protected. And you're not going to get, if you're not spotted, you just sit here. And let's say the enemy takes up this popular position on the other side of the building. If you have engineering, which I do, and you want to block capture, you can rush to this position and just sit here. And if they don't come around and hit you, you're going to block the capture. You will be proximity spotted, though, so they're going to know that you're there. This is cap F. It's a difficult cap. A lot of tanks are going to pull up behind this house and park over here. And you start getting lots of tanks building up over here. And it's really difficult because the enemy is going to drop artillery over here. So you want to avoid being right next to the enemy, to your allies. If there's an ally here, maybe you want to be back here so that the house still blocks you, but you're not going to get hit by artillery. You can try getting next to this house. The problem is an enemy that is in the position I'm pointing to on the mini-map can shoot you behind this building and across to here. When I play with the ELC even 90, I hide in one of these bushes or in this bush to the side of the house. But the problem is if you are in one of these bushes and they do a recon flight, you will get spotted. This is objective 1. When you play on the attacking team, you want to be where this Carnarvon is, or you want to be behind the camera. Like, for example, with this Mauerbrecher is a good position, or behind him, there's another building. You can look along the dotted line, and you can move further back. But the further away you get, you're going to need a gun that does decent penetration. If you have a light tank, you might have difficulty penetrating it from the side. When you're defending, obviously you want to be up here somewhere. So let's go to objective 2. This is objective 2. Objective 2 is the easiest objective to go after. It's surrounded by a slope, so the enemy cannot snipe at you from far away. It's got lots of buildings, which are good for the attacking team. You can just sit on the other side of this building is the best place. You just sit there and you shoot at objective 2, especially if you got good penetration. Or you can go to this area and hit objective 2. And even down here, there's a position where you can hit objective 2, which you'll see in a lot of my videos. And you've got these rail lines and these buildings. You can approach on the left of these rail lines. It's very easy to get through without being spotted because there's a river over here, enemy tanks, and there's this big hill. Nobody sits over here to spot you. And even if they were, they can't shoot at you. So objective 2 is really easy to go after. This is objective 3. You can see it's been destroyed. There's 3 ways to get up here. One is from behind the objective. Another one is a slope going on the right side. And there's another entrance that is somewhere over here in between the two that if you play the game, you might not ever see it, but it's there. There's a road that zigzags up, so there's 3 ways to get up here. There's a sniping position over here to defend objective 3. It's pretty useless. I sit up here. You really don't have a lot of targets to shoot at unless you really got a lucky game. And it's often undefended. So if you are lucky, you can get up here. It takes a long time for the enemy to get up here. So objective 3 can be a good objective to go after, especially if you could do a lot of damage in a short period of time. Objective 4, one of the good things about objective 4 is that you cannot be sniped from long range. This is where you want all your heavy tanks to go. This is where the brawling is going to be. The enemy has to physically be here in order to defend. And that means that their slow tanks are going to have trouble getting here to defend. They're going to show up with faster tanks that might have weaker guns. You can sit in between these buildings and hit turret 4. If you have an autoloader and you want to reload, you can go within these buildings to reload and come back out. But you got to be careful. The gap to get into this area is very small. There's room for 2 or 3 tanks to sit there, but it's a very small entrance. Like a Type 4 Heavy might not be able to fit in there. But I've seen other autoloaders go in there. And you will get proximity spotted. I think the best thing to do is to get up into this elevated area or where these stairs are, and there's an object right over here to defend you. Get over here, and if you got good gun elevation to hit objective 4, the enemy usually focuses on what's on the lower level and secondary to what's on this upper level. So if you're up in this area, there's a lot of tanks sitting over here shooting at objective 4 that are ignored. The enemy can snipe. You see where the repair facility is? That's a good defensive position. If you have a TD, you can sit over there right next to that repair facility. You can shoot through this area and defend the immediate surroundings, and when they start damaging you, you can go to the repair facility. It's like getting a new life and come back out and defend again. Objective 5, I think, is the hardest objective. You can't really get close to it without getting sniped. The closest you could do is sit over here, but there's snipers all over the place. You only need a few snipers to defend this because on the approach, it's wide open. When you're approaching, a few people can slow down and approach. So it's very difficult to get to objective 5. I prefer objective 4, and the reason why is because flank E and F can combine together and go after objective 4 with a massive force. You want to use overwhelming force in this game and go after that turret. Because remember, when you're firing at this gun, you're not shooting at the enemy, which gives the defenders an advantage because they're going to be shooting at you and you have to kind of ignore them in order to hit those turrets.